the truth is crazier than a conspiracy you thought was a theory. Something happened several weeks ago in Milwaukee, and it's called Free First Saturday Plant Teachers. So they're doing a seminar on plants at the Walker Art Institute in Milwaukee. And it says here, resilience and ingenuity, interconnectedness. What else might we learn by paying closer attention to plants? Invite the inspiring green thumbs in your life and join us for Free First Saturday in the Minneapolis Sculpture Garden as we celebrate our plant teachers. At August Free First Saturday, Brooklyn-based artist Tamar Etten, who goes by the pronoun she, they, will present Lilith, the empathic demon. The performance is inspired by Lilith, an aerial spirit demon with origins in Sumerian, Akkadian, and Judaic mythology. Families are invited to create a vessel to trap the demon that knows them best, perhaps the demon of overthinking, and then participate in a playful ceremony to summon and befriend their demon. This project was organized in collaboration with Dreamsong, which will also host a conversation between the artist and writer Elizabeth Workman. And it goes on to explain this event. But do you see once again how man is trying to have a spiritual connection with plants? We see how man, once again, the devil is trying to use plants to bring about demonic spells upon our kids, to manipulate their minds, to control their minds. They're literally holding a event where kids are participating in a playful ceremony to open themselves up to demons, to demonic possession. As you know, leaves represent medical purposes, right? We get a lot of our medication, a lot of our drugs, a lot of our potions come from nature. It comes from leaves. It comes from the forest. And we see here in Genesis that that's what they use to try to cover themselves up. We see that the devil tricked them by telling them, hey, you don't need God to become like God, to be like God. You don't need a relationship with God, but you can be like God by taking hold of something from nature. You can be like God by eating of this fruit, by taking of this root, by making nature God. You can be like God. We see that God kicked them out of the garden. Because of this, he knew that they would be in constant pursuit of trying to be like God through nature. He said, lest they take up the fruit and live forever in this sinful state, kick them out of the garden. So the choice was made by God to kick them out of the garden. We see that when Cain was born, he was a tiller of the ground, and God pronounced a curse upon the ground, making it hard for Adam and his descendants to till the ground, that they would sweat and labor to bring forth produce. But we also see another curse was pronounced on the ground when Cain was born. We see the story of Cain when he killed his brother Abel because God rejected his fruit. God rejected his produce, his offering. And many people read the story and they say that it's because Cain offered God, bad produce or insignificant produce from the crop, stuff that he didn't want, that he did not want to keep, things that he was going to trash. people say that this is what Cain was offering to God, that it wasn't his best, it wasn't his first. But that is not what the passage says. It just says that God rejected Cain's offering. Could it be that Cain knew the story of power? He knew the story of the supernatural fruit that his parents tried to take hold of, that his parents took a bite of. Could it be that Cain dedicated his life trying to connect with God through produce, through medication, through nature, through roots? Could it be that this is why God rejected his offering? Because it wasn't from a pure heart. It wasn't him trying to connect to God, through God, in the right way. He was trying to connect with God through nature, like we're doing today. We are heavily medicated on weed, trying to ascertain peace. We're heavily medicated on all these other psychedelic drugs, trying to connect to spiritual forces. We're heavily medicated on legal prescribed drugs, trying to find peace and comfort when only true peace, true comfort, true joy, true healing comes from God, comes from a relationship with God. We see that God pronounced the second curse on the ground, and it says that when God says to Cain in Genesis 4 verse 12, "When thou tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto you her strength." It shall not yield to you her strength anymore, Cain. You're not going to be able to get power and resource to try to achieve the supernatural state from the ground, from nature. God limited and took away his power. That same serpent spirit that spoke to Adam and Eve and said, "You can be like God by taking of this fruit," was the same spirit that was at work with Cain, trying to be like God through the fruit, through the produce. And this is not an attack on the medical industry. This is not an attack on healthy lifestyle, because God created these things. But like everything else, the devil tries to take it and distort it and manipulate it and have us living a lifestyle that is in rebellion to God. Leviticus chapter 10 verse 1 says, "Now Nadab and Abihu, the sons of Aaron, took their respective ceremonial censers and put fire in them and placed incense on it and offered strange, unauthorized, unacceptable fire before the Lord, an act which he had commanded them not to do." You see, going back in Exodus, God had instructed Aaron and his sons and what things were allowed in the offering. Certain ingredients from nature that was permitted. Certain things was allowed in a sacrifice and certain things were not. And we see here that Nadab and Abihu mixed things in from nature, offered up a strange smoke unto God. Why did they do this? Maybe they liked the euphoric feeling they got from the smoke. Maybe they liked the way it smelled. The Bible doesn't say why they offered this, but it says that they offered strange smoke, strange incense, strange offering unto the Lord, and thought the Lord was going to accept it when he said, "This is not allowed." It says that fire came out from the presence of the Lord and devoured them, and they died before the Lord. They died before the Lord because they went against the will of God by using things from nature that was not authorized.